Hello, everyone. Welcome to Great Northern Instore's webinar on applying the Walgreens Style Guide to your projects at Walgreens. I'm Dan Sabinosh, Director of Shopper Marketing for Great Northern Instore. Excited. This is the first time that we've done a retailer-specific webinar. For everyone on the call, just a quick 101 on Great Northern. We're a designer and producer of merchandisers and displays, both temporary and permanent, that go into a host of retailers here in the US. Walgreens is one of our strategic retail partners, and we are currently a preferred display vendor to Walgreens. Few housekeeping items just to start. This webinar will be about 30 minutes. We hope to leave some time for questions. We'll be on a little bit later if we have questions to answer, but if we don't and aren't able to capture everybody, we'll definitely get back to you. Questions. Please utilize the questions portion of the GoToWebinar tool to enter anything as it comes up. We'll be monitoring that, and as mentioned, try to tackle as many as we can at the back end of the webinar. Okay, I want to introduce today Warren Bobick, who leads Great Northern's Walgreens business. He has been in the Walgreens ecosystem for over 17 years. He spent over a decade of that time working for Walgreens across roles in store operations, supply chain, and category management. Post Walgreens, Warren was on the CPG side of the business, calling on Walgreens. We're happy that Warren joined Great Northern Instore 2 years ago and brought his expertise to us, working both with Walgreens directly and with the CPG community.
Thanks for the intro, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm super excited to go through the changes to the vendor display guide with you all today. There are some really major changes happening, certainly bigger than what we're used to seeing. We're obviously used to seeing, I think, some incremental change with the guide as it's evolved over time. There's a lot to cover here today. Let's dive right into it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I guess I'll start off with the obvious question: why this webinar now?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a pretty good question. I'm sure a lot of people on the call today probably have the same question. The display guide that Walgreens has out there, it's been in place for basically a dozen years, right? The marketing team makes quarterly updates, and the most recent update that just dropped on September 15th that was posted to SupplierNet has some really, really significant changes. Essentially what we are seeing when we look through this guide is like a total rebranding of the in-store creative. As brilliant as Walgreens is about putting together really tight guides for the vendor community, they don't broadcast this and these updates directly out to the CPG community. The new guides are posted to SupplierNet. They're provided to the category managers or buyers, and then the buyers are expected to share this with their CPG partners. So there certainly can be a little bit of a lag in how quickly this information gets out to the vendor community. Anytime that we see changes to the style guide, we get a lot of questions. I'm sure you folks out there have questions, and so we thought it best just to get out in front of this and get you the information and make sure that you're informed.
Beautiful. Now, beyond the now, why a style guide? Why is Walgreens really focused on this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it probably makes sense to take a step back and kind of understand, why this thing exists, sort of what it's designed to do. So Walgreens views themselves as a brand. They know that they have an equity to their name, and when it comes to their in-store, they want to be a branded store versus a store of brands, right? So to control the look of their in-store and enhance the shopper experience, the display guide that they put out there really seeks to do two things. First of all, I mean, they want to create a harmonized look and feel across the in-store environment, across all of the different display pieces that are out there provided by the vendor community. And then they want to shout value in a really consistent way that motivates the shopper and drives sales. So, I mean, pretty simple, pretty basic stuff there, right? So, the style guide's been around a while, probably a little over a dozen years now. It's evolved over time. I find the style guide to be very prescriptive and very tight, certainly compared to some other major retailers out there. And I think that's a good thing. This is giving you lanes to follow to get your display approved quickly and get it on the floor. So a tight prescriptive style guide, not a bad thing.
Cool. It definitely helps drive a consistency. But that said, how does this guide work? Because I know there's a guide and there's other toolkits. How does this whole thing work together?
Yeah, another really important, I think, piece to understand. So the vendor display guide, which you see on the left of the screen, it's in general, this is all, I guess, whether it's the display guide or the seasonal guide, this is all focused on temporary activations. So like those 30 to 90 day, in-store activations. We're not talking about perm vehicles. That's a totally different process. Walgreens, when it comes to, describing how they want their vendor community to, craft the displays and how they want them to look, it's really broken down into two parts, right? So you've got the vendor style guide. This is really the foundation. It provides detail on the various structures that are approved. Of course, Walgreens, they have their own unique fixtures in the stores. They want displays to fit appropriately into those fixtures. They don't want it to be sized too big where it might be a safety concern, or too small where it looks like a yard sale. So you've got, your structures. There's non-seasonal creative direction in the vendor style guide, and then there's templates for communicating consumer offers. The vendor toolboxes, which you see on the right side of the screen, these really describe the look and the feel that are specific to seasonal events. And so when you bring these two documents together, they really, again, guide the whole CPG community on how their display should look and feel based on the time of year and the type of display that you're putting together. Important to note, if you're not aware already, I'm sure many people on the phone are aware of this, but just putting it out there for those that aren't, both of these documents are available on the Walgreens Supplier Net under the general information folder and then style guide subfolder. So they're out there, and again, these are posted fairly regularly.
Excellent. Now, as you mentioned, in September, the new vendor display guide came out, had a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start the opposite way. What stayed the same?
Yeah, and it's almost kind of easier to sort of start with what is staying the same, because there is so much change. I think to the folks in the call, I mean, take comfort in that there are many things that are staying the same. Your timeline remains the same. The structures remain the same. There's no changes there. Obviously, that's a really good thing for CPGs and display providers like Great Northern, who already have tooling for these structures. The seasonal toolbox idea of having unique colors by season, that remains the same. The approval process remains the same. The DAC code will still be used, with the intent of that being your final seal of approval. Excellent.
Well, now that we got that out of the way, let's unveil what is changing.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot here. Just kind of looking at the first screen here, which is one of Walgreens' sort of primary display vehicles, the end cap. You sort of get a sense of where we've been on the left and where we're going on the right. Again, this update, it's not just incremental. This is a total rebrand. So let's kind of run through this. In general, when you look at the creative on the right, which is the newer creative, I think you get the sense that it's a little less clinical looking, maybe a little bit more fun and modern. The comprehensive set of updates to the creative include new colors, new fonts. The new colors are a cream, navy, red, and yellow. Walgreens is actually good enough to provide us with some CMYK values, which is very helpful to make sure that display vendors create, their displays in a way where they're really consistent color-wise. The new fonts are Source Sans Pro Regular and Bold versus the Helvetica New that we had seen in the past. Support graphics, you've got red anchoring the base of the FEPs. It's also anchoring towers and table wraps. Cream is now your dominant color overall. There are new promo templates. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There's new promo messaging. And one thing you'll notice about those FEPs on the end cap is that, it's a graphics only treatment. There's no Walgreens or vendor branding there. So again, some big changes with the overall look. So here's, obviously a view of what the other vehicles in the store look like. This kind of gives you a sense of how the new creative is being applied across side panels, tower displays, and table wraps. So again, very, very clean, very simple, maybe a little modern, but certainly a big change from where we've been. So let's talk about the end cap headers. So mandatory double-sided headers were launched back in October 2019. So basically this time last year in a vendor display guide update. And that impacted any end cap that had a promo, including beauty table end caps. What's changing here is that there's a new general side and promo side look. Side one, must include a more savings for you message. You see that on the left side of the screen. Side two, features the new promotional templates. Those are all outlined on page 2.4 of the guide. Walgreens does this because they know that their stores set some of these displays ahead of an offer date, and obviously if they do that, that can cause a lot of problems with shoppers not getting the sale price at the register. So this is really kind of designed to protect that store experience, also potentially protect CPGs from those offers starting too early. So the headers can be single-sided in certain scenarios. Scenarios like new at Walgreens or only at Walgreens. Obviously, those don't have a very specific offer tied to them, so those ones can continue to be single-sided. There are die lines provided and art assets provided. There's links to that in the Walgreens display guide, and that kind of stuff will make your life a lot easier, either for your agency or your display provider. One of the more interesting changes is that there will no longer be separate colors for convenience, beauty, personal care, and health and wellness categories. Every single display will have this harmonized look regardless of category. But one thing to note is that this new creative is only where there is a consumer offer available. And it's intended to call out that value, again, across all categories and products. So that is new. Again, for years and years, we've seen these separate color schemes by category, and that's no longer. All right, so let's get into some of the changes with the icon and value highlight creative. So templates for value messaging have obviously been updated. I think you've probably caught on to that with the few slides that we've shown already. So now it's really a combination of a new icon, the MyW icon, a value highlight, and colors and fonts. The consumer offer is positioned inside the yellow value highlight, really making it pop. And then the icon on headers and shelf flips use this new My Walgreens icon, which is related to another rebranding, and this one, a rebranding of the Balance Rewards loyalty program. And this is also a big change. So the Balance Rewards loyalty program will be replaced by My Walgreens. Balance Rewards points are going to be replaced by Walgreens Cash Rewards. I don't know about you, but when I hear Cash Rewards, that certainly gets my attention. So I think that's a move in the right direction. this change is all happening pretty quickly. Walgreens cash rewards, messaging, and graphics are due to replace balance rewards starting on December 27th of this year. Walgreens describes, their new membership program as, intensely personalized. We know that this was a partnership with Microsoft. So there's very likely some very powerful AI behind this that's going to be pushing customized, personalized offers out to the shopper. So really exciting stuff. Just a side note, if you have a Balance Rewards membership today, like my household does, those points will not automatically transfer. So you need to sign up for the new My Walgreens program, and you've got to do that before January 31st to keep your points. So Dan, don't forget, I know you're a Balance Rewards household too. So, and those points do add up. So you definitely want to keep those. So let's take a look at seasonal here for a second. So, obviously with all the changes happening to sort of the non-seasonal guide, it only makes sense that there would be updates made to the seasonal portion as well. So you can see from what we have on the screen here with end caps and some of the other vehicles that the value callouts are being harmonized to look just like the non-seasonal creative. And it's the same colors and fonts and templates as the non-seasonal. So that's a nice piece of continuity across both guides. Seasonal display programs will continue to maintain unique colors by season or event. Obviously, that's sort of been a hallmark of Walgreens' seasonal display guide. So that part will remain the same. What's up on the screen right now is summer 2021. You can see there's a different look than last year, so that's been updated. But again, the idea of keeping these different colors by season, all of that is going to continue.
Wow, bunches of changes there. Thank you. A lot of great call outs there of how this is a great program that is obviously helping, again, continue to drive that consistency across the store, but also tying in with some of their out of the store programs such as the cash rewards program, which is great.
Yep.
All right. Well, with all the changes, when do you see or think we're going to see it roll out in stores?
Yeah, so we did talk to Walgreens marketing recently. And we got a sense of this because we were really curious, how long it would take to roll out such a major change. And this is obviously no small undertaking with the amount of displays that come in, with how far the planning process starts at the buyer's desk. So I'll kind of break this up into to two parts. Let's start with non-seasonal. So January, February creative will be an interim look and feel that kind of bridges, where we've been and where we're going with the style guide. March is, the target time frame to get everything transitioned to this new look for non-seasonal displays. So March is, again, the date that Walgreens expects everything to look like the new vendor display guide that we're showing you today. Seasonal, even probably more of a challenge because of the direct import lead times and things like that. So Easter will be an interim look, and then as we get into May, June with Red Nose and summer, those style guides, which are actually out there posted now, those are going to fully integrate the new branding with seasonal colors. So a little bit more of a lag there, obviously, because of the type of business, right? But Red Nose and summer will have the new look and feel.
Excellent. Excited to see that roll out.
No doubt.
Now, that said, as I wander stores, I see a lot of still different things out there in Walgreens. Talk to me about common exceptions to the guide.
Yeah, man, Dan, that's an awesome question because I'm sure folks in the call, when they walk a Walgreens store, they obviously see a lot of style guide, but then they see displays like what are on the screen, right? That clearly don't follow the style guide, and you're probably like, hey, what gives? I'm following the process, but somehow this ended up in the store, obviously approved, and doesn't follow that guide. So again, when we talked to Walgreens marketing recently, we asked some of these questions to make sure, that we had clarity around, sort of where this gray area, existed. And so, here's what we know. 1 to 2 years ago, Walgreens started to open up to branded creative where there was either a new item or an innovative item, and in those cases they were willing to allow a lot of CPG branding. So the example that you see on the right side of the screen, that was a new product launch, so obviously that makes sense. I believe Sunbum was also a new product launch, so that kind of explains at least those two. But more recently, Walgreens has started allowing vendor branded displays if there's not a promo offer or a consumer offer, but there's a strong national brand, and they see that brand as the equity or promo element. Sorry, and this may change, but this is really where the thinking is currently. We do also occasionally see like a wow display piece that gets a height exception. That's not super common, but those things they do exist from time to time, and those have to be worked through with the buyer, and the buyer has to then work with the marketing team to get those exceptions.
Good. I can see that, because even a lot of the vehicles that may graphically look different, they still need to fit all the structural dimensions to keep the store looking sharp, clean, what Walgreens
Yeah,
wants.
and keep it ADA compliant. I mean, there's a lot of sort of reasons why they maintain this core set of structures, and I think it really does again help with that idea of harmony too across the store.
Right. Excellent. All right. Well, next is, we've talked a lot about it. Give our audience some tips for success in terms of what's the best way to apply this and have success in working with Walgreens using this guide.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair question. My number one piece of advice is, some people kind of laugh at this or think, this is ridiculously simple, but my advice is this, follow the guide. I mentioned earlier, it's extremely tight, it's extremely prescriptive. They're really laying out for you what you need to do and when you need to do it. Section 1 of the guide is really probably the most important. It covers your timelines and your format for submitting your display for creative approval. So specifically within that section, page 1.4 is going to actually run you through a template, like an email template on how you're supposed to email the Walgreens vendor creative team requesting an approval. One of the common causes of delays is not providing an ad planning number. That's something that you're going to get from your category manager, and those ad planning numbers typically, every display will have one. Beauty tables, don't, and I don't know that seasonal does, but most every display in the store is going to have that ad planning number. So you want to make sure that's in there. You want to make sure your display dates, your insert dates are in there. Your display dimensions are in the body of the email. Getting that submission right on the first try is really critical to eliminating back and forth and delays. There's obviously a lot of vendors out there submitting these displays, and there's very few people at Walgreens sort of catching this and reviewing and approving it. So they can definitely become overwhelmed. The other thing, you want to submit your displays for approval earlier than the published timelines if you can, right? Obviously, it's not always possible, but that gives you time to adjust. If there's things that need to be addressed. So give yourself as much time as possible. They don't kick it back if you submit it early. So try to get that submission out into the marketing's hands as soon as possible. I think the other thing that's sort of interesting to me, maybe having worked at Walgreens for a while and having sold back to them, is that this style guide doesn't provide you with sort of a target warehouse ship to arrive date or in DC date. It doesn't really give you a sense of how long it takes Walgreens to get displays to stores, or the fact that they want the display in the store a week before the start of their program. All they show you is that there's kind of this 15-week period from when the PO is supposed to be issued and the store set date. while that 15 weeks is typically more than enough time for a display manufacturer to build your display and pack it out and get it shipped. I mean, the reality is that, we're often working way inside that, because of things that are happening and delays that are happening upstream in the process. So, it's always good to know, how long does it really take your display manufacturer to, get the display done and pack it out and get it to the DCs. The DCs do take 2 weeks to get displays to stores. So you're going to see typically an in-DC date that's, 3 to 4 weeks before that in-store date. And that's a lot of time out of that 15 weeks. And again, understanding how long it takes your display provider to create that display. Good information to know, so that you're sort of seeing a complete picture of the timeline. So, gosh, what else here? When we talked to marketing, one of the other things that we heard was that a sort of a common reason for rejection was that content was placed too low on the display, like the base of a tower, for example, or the bottom of a side panel. If you're going to put some kind of content low on a display, it's recommended that it just be a simple, a brand icon, or something really basic. So definitely don't want to try to do any education or get too deep, low on a display near the customer's ankles where they're not going to see it. That's really all I have for tips and tricks.
Well, that's great stuff, though. I think as you described, the timeline here shows I think the backbone of what's needed, but you're right. Understanding the details that go into it is highly critical, because exactly, there's some big gaps in that timeline, but there's a lot of steps that occur in those gaps, and you have to be on top of it.
And everything shown is obviously best case, right, or ideal scenario. And we know that the reality is it doesn't always work that way.
Right. And I love the comment about items placed low from a shopper marketing perspective. We know shoppers aren't reading detailed copy that sit there shoe tops. Again, we all know space is valuable, and we try to use every bit of it. But that's great to hear, that we should be a great reminder that we should be watching out for that.
Right on.
So thank you, Warren. That was just tremendous. A little pause here. I wanted to say, one, thank you for all attending. Two, we're looking to make this a quarterly webinar that kind of touches on key areas of success at Walgreens. It won't always necessarily be on the style guide. We're looking at future topics like product launches at Walgreens, looking at multi-vendor programs at Walgreens, all around various merchandising aspects to, again, help you win at this critical retailer. What you will get following this webinar is an email that will thank you for attending. It will have a link to a recording of the webinar. So if you want to go back and review anything or re-listen to a part of this, the content will be there. There will also be a link to a survey. Again, it's all about getting better and making sure we provide you strong content that's useful. So please take a couple minutes and fill that out, not only on this webinar, but also on key topics that are most relevant to you for our future webinars. And that's going to help us map out our programming accordingly. So please look out for that, and we look for your feedback. I know we're about to hit the 30-minute mark, but I got about 2 questions I think that we can get covered here, and I'm going to toss them to Warren. First off, a question about process. As you prepare all this stuff and put it in to get approved, who actually does approve these displays and activations?
That's a good question. Where does it go, right? What's on the other end? So when you put together your your email to vendor creative, it's a generic email box that's going to 3 vendor creative managers who review and approve it. And in the past, they've been assigned to different business groups. What's interesting, and it's kind of rolled up into the changes that we've looked at today, is Walgreens is actually going to be going to one full-time approver for all displays. So, I talked about making sure that you got your email submission correct and put all the information in there that's required. I mean, super critical, because now there's one person doing this versus 3 part-time in the past, now 1 full-time, but it's still a monster of a job. So we really want to make sure that, you're giving that person everything they need for, the approval process to go smoothly. Good question. So hopefully that demystifies kind of what happens when you click submit.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of
Right.
sending it off into the
abyss.
In the abyss.
Right.
Cloud.
Right.
The other question we have time for, and for those that asked other questions, we will definitely get back to you, because I know we're hitting 1:30 now and want to be respectful of time. But the other one is, with such a prescriptive style guide and limited space for brand equity, should CPG teams even be going after these? Why go after them?
Going after displays?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think, when you look at all of the sort of work that's been done to understand display effectiveness, right? Simply having product out and in an impulsive location can, increase sales for those featured items by 20 to 30%. I mean, that's been, those stats have been sort of, validated time and time again. So I think it's important, right? Walgreens is, limited on space. The space is hyper competitive, both on the shelf and on the floor. I think if you're not out there, getting your items in front of the shopper and trying to drive those impulse sales, then you're starting to put yourself at risk for falling behind somebody else who is willing to take, that investment on and do that. So I think, there's a little bit of a defensive nature to it, but there's also that, look, get your brands out there in front of the shopper and drive sales and drive, awareness of your products.
Right. And I'll build on that a little bit too, is obviously it's a key vehicle to drive the promotional strategy that a brand has at Walgreens, which is critical to driving those incremental sales. And then secondly, a lot of the vehicles do have some built in. If you look at the end caps, there's spaces for info boxes and info panels that can tell some of the stories as well. So
right.
There are pieces that are built into it. And then obviously we talked about the branded applications that really highlight innovation, et cetera, that are also key and part of it. So hopefully that helped tackle that question.
Yeah.
Again, I want to say thank you to everybody that joined us today. Thank you for the time. Again, be on the lookout for that email, and we look forward to your feedback and look forward to hearing from you soon, that we can hopefully help tackle some of your Walgreens challenges for you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.